my brother said something to me one time, my immediate older brother, where I was talking about music and being like, well, you know, if you can make your own beats, then this and that. And he was like, you know, at what point do you build the piano? You know, he's like, you can only do so much. You can't create your own SM7B, you know?
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, you have to outsource something, you know? So it's the same with clothing. Like at what point do you sew the shirt? You can put the logo on it, but you need to stop the production chain at some point. My name is Chigozie Ukaga. I am a property manager primarily.
Okay.
But I've also worked, actually longer, but I've worked as a realtor since I was 20.
Okay.
So
6 years, right?
6 years, six years and some months. And I've always been a part-time realtor.
Okay.
I've always worked at Edina Realty. So
Okay.
that's what I do for the most part. I also make music. I have a LLC that I started when I was around the same age when I got my real estate license, but not when I hung it, when I was 19. So I've been working as like a songwriter, and I make like music videos and stuff.
You actually kind of had a dope song I heard at one time, dude, on YouTube.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
I had a song. It did like a little bit of numbers, and then I
Yeah.
kind of just like fell back. My intent was not to become like a famous artist. That's why people kind of see my regular page, and I just post regular stuff on my music page, and they're like, does this guy not have his life together? But like, if you realize that it's like, no, I was actually just using my music as a vessel to get like songwriting opportunities.
Okay.
But I figured that I couldn't be a songwriter that didn't put music out to promote my songwriting, because otherwise people would be like, okay, you write songs, but how do I know that? You know?
Kind of feels like we're already doing the podcast, man.
Yeah.
We are. So you said you're a realtor, but you're a property manager, but
Yeah, that's my W-2 role.
Okay.
I'm a property manager. I work for the city of Minneapolis.
And you also are a realtor for Edina Realty.
Yes.
Okay.
And I started there first when I was in college.
Okay. And you make beats.
Yeah, I make beats.
The beat maker.
Videos. I produce
Oh,
videos.
you're a videographer?
Well, I produce them. I don't actually shoot them because I have to be in them, or other people are in them, and then I'm like funding them. Or
Oh, man, you can shoot them and you can be in them, man. I figured that out the hard way.
you can shoot and produce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
that's the Malvo way.
So, yeah,
The Malvo
I
way.
need to start hiring some other people.
Yeah, we got to outsource sooner or later, but
Eventually,
right now we're just
stickering it out.
texting each other
Yeah,
back and forth.
See, the thing about me and Rob is we got completely different styles. Like I'm the type of dude that when I shoot something, I have to have the whole thing planned out. So I don't have to scrub through 10 hours of footage.
Yep.
This dude will scrub through 20 hours of footage, man. I'd be like, where'd you get that clip of me picking up that thing?
Yeah.
Like, it'd just be me, like, grabbing something off the table and then it'll, like, whip to, like, me, like, using it or putting it down or something. Because
Right.
he scrubbed through all the footage to look for the stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, whereas me, I'm like, hey, man, pick that up real quick, put it back down. Like, I want to make sure that I know it's coming so that way I
Yeah.
don't have to, work so hard on the back end.
Different
You know what
styles. I like, well, in anything, I like more so having content, period. I think it's important because you can use it. But sometimes you get like, if I'm speaking specifically on video footage, you can get like overwhelmed with having something. You don't even want to start editing it because you have so much. You're like, I don't even want to edit it.
I mean? Oh, dude.
That's the one thing. Other than that, I mean, you can do the Rob method and jump in and get a bunch of clips, but it's like when you have so much, it's like I don't even know where everything is, so my mind doesn't want to edit it.
I think
might
that
take 4 hours.
everybody says, "Oh, just shoot more than you need." I've done this too before because I've shot. Me being a real estate agent,
Yeah.
and creating content for real estate. I've had people ask me to shoot their weddings. I've done wedding photography several times. I've done it like 3 times.
I believe it.
I've done wedding photography twice, and I did a wedding video once.
I believe it.
And everyone always says, "Well, shoot more than you need, so that way you know that you don't leave anything out."
Yeah.
And then in my experience, I'm coming back here. I got 3,000 pictures to edit. I'm like, why did I do that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Why did I shoot more than I needed?
Right, that's when you
Why
like
did
the
I
SD
take
card
drone
game.
footage for 6 miles flying into the event? Just to make sure I get everything.
Yeah, I came in last night for the wedding.
Last night.
Like Barack Obama just flew in.
That's what I'm
flew
saying,
the drone in
dude.
last night.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, I don't know. I kind of like keeping it to a minimum. Exactly what I need. Have a shot list. So like when I go out to properties now and I'm shooting houses,
Right.
I'll try to come up with a script and a shot list for the guy. So I'm
Smart.
like, all right, this is what I'm gonna say. This is the stuff that's in my script. So this is your shot list. Do whatever you're gonna do, but just make sure you get these 10 things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
See, I like to shoot with a purpose now. I used to just get a bunch of footage. Now it's like, okay, I got to get a zoom in. I got to get a zoom out.
Right.
And then when I pan the room, so I'll watch my videos, but my videos my recordings won't be longer than like 20 seconds, 10 seconds now.
Sure.
And if they are long, it's because I hit the button and walked away. And so I'll come back and take off the beginning.
Sure.
And that'll cut it down. But a lot of the stuff, like him picking up stuff, it just so happens to be like, okay, I caught that. I can run with that. And, you get creative.
You do.
Once you start getting the feel for how to edit. Because I didn't know how to edit. My kids taught me how to do that on Instagram.
Sure.
And then went from Instagram to CapCut.
Yep.
And so,
which is TikTok's creator created that ByteDance, right?
Yep. But
it actually was TikTok and then CapCut. So Instagram, TikTok, and CapCut.
Because the desktop version of CapCut's pretty dope.
Yeah, ByteDance is on there. They're on it.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff included in that one.
For sure. The desktop version.
Yeah. But I still use Adobe Premiere Pro and the more professional ones. It's because that's where I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adobe is, it's sweet.
It is.
It's the whole system.
It's an Adobe suite. I have the Adobe suite.
Yeah. No pun intended.
No pun intended, man.
But I'm not a rapper.
That's right. No. So the one thing about you, though, man, I know you like to give me a little bit of heat. You like to troll me a little bit, poke fun at me, Gozie.
I do.
That's cool. I'm cool with that, man. The one thing I'll say about you, I'm not gonna say nothing negative about you, man. I think you're a smart individual, man, real smart young man.
Sure.
And so, you seem to have your stuff together when it comes to this property management thing. And I know you told me before that you were thinking about starting your own property management company or your own property management service, I should say.
Right.
At some point. So why don't we just delve into that? Because when I first met you,
right,
you were real estate agent, and you said, I got to go to class. I got to go to college. I said, what are you going to college for? You're like, real estate, so I can be like you. I'm like, you must have it twisted, bro. I don't know anyone that went to school for college. I didn't. I didn't go to school for real estate. I didn't go to school for real estate besides the 90 hours required to get your real estate license. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So, you got out of college, and did you work for a private firm, or were you working for the city of Minneapolis right off the bat?
No. So I started off actually while I was still in college. My last 2 summers, I worked at a private company, and then I went back to that same company. I interned there twice. The first year that I interned there, the first summer, I had a job. I was working at a historic building. So they owned some buildings that had been historic rehabs, and those were like 100% full. So I wasn't really doing too much. I was doing like administrative stuff. When somebody would be moving out and another person was pretty much guaranteed to move in because they had a wait list, I'd do the tour, but just kind of basic tasks. And then the next summer, I worked at like 3 buildings that year because they just were like putting me wherever I could just show my face. I was like a token, It's like, like, look, we have an African American intern. Like, hey. The next year, I went to a lease up, and then I worked at basically a building that isn't 100% full. It's brand new. They're moving people in. They're like, promotions, like whenever they're doing all that stuff. And that was it wasn't more difficult, but I learned a lot more there. I felt like I was actually learning about property management. Went back to that company after I graduated, worked there for like 10 months. I remember before I started there, Cory actually was like, you're going to go work for a company. They're going to pay you 60 bands a year.
Yeah, I know, man. I was like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah, what are you doing, man? And they actually paid me less than that, so which is funny.
Hey, but you had
so not only was he right, he was wrong in the right way.
You had to learn though yourself.
I did, and I left that company because I got an opportunity to work at a nonprofit for more than $60K. But anyway, so I worked there, and then
that's how bad your job was. The nonprofit paid more than that.
Yeah, I told them that too. That was so funny, dude. They talk about exit interviews. They're never honest about how those go. I told them, they're like, no, we value you. I'm like, not more than a nonprofit though. That's I've been loyal.
The whole title, nonprofit. Yeah, but I get paid more than that.
I know. I was like, man, that's crazy. But yeah. So I ended up going there. Better job, better situation. And nonprofits, one thing about them are they're very lax. It almost feels like you're volunteering. You don't feel like you're really working super hard, which is kind of cool. So I appreciated being in that world for a little bit. And then I got an opportunity to go to another company, and they were kind of a sister company of the nonprofit. The person that owned it used to work at the nonprofit as a vice president. So I went there, and I felt like I was getting kind of soft, man. I was like, I'm not working super hard, so I need to get back into the private sector and like, get some headaches from work again. I don't know. I'm Nigerian. So it's like, you kind of have to be crazy to like, be like, I was like, I'm getting soft. I'm not doing too much. So I went there and I worked there. And then when I was there, I was working really hard, learning a lot, like a rising star in the company. But I just got another opportunity and then kind of turned that one down. And then eventually the city of Minneapolis had an opportunity for me to come there.
So you went from the private sector making nothing to a nonprofit making more, now working for the government and making even more?
Yeah, basically.
Man, that's backwards, dude.
I know. That should tell you everything about your taxes you need to know.
Man.
Yep, I figured the game out. So that's the whole story.
By accident, huh?
I mean, in some sense, on accident, but I think I planned it out as I went. I think going and showing up day by day, like I was always like a okay student, I'd say. But I think like by the time I got to like high school, I kind of was just like a plain, BC student. And I realized that you do a lot just by showing up. A lot of stuff comes to people just by being there.
That's real.
So I got a lot of opportunities. I saw a lot of things ahead of time. I had a lot of foresight because I could see a good opportunity coming because the people that just weren't showing up didn't understand the landscape of what was going on. And I was like watching the currents. Like when people were getting laid off, I was like, I know if I stay here, do this is going to happen to me. So as a result, I shifted. So I think that was really the biggest benefit of me, moving up in the industry. And I mean, what I explained to you, it's also on LinkedIn. I mean, somebody could go look at my LinkedIn and the same story would be told. Okay. But sometimes people ask me like, what happened and where are you at now? And I'm like, just look at LinkedIn, you'll see it.
So when you talk about starting your own property management service, is that a conflict of interest of what you're doing with Minneapolis or?
So no, if in the sense that what I do independently, if I was to work the service I was interested in creating in a sense is, I mean, there's always opportunities in the market. I think one thing I noticed is that just generally, there's a lot of things that people want to do with their house. So they might be like, I want to change all the door handles in my house and all of the vanity fixtures, right? And it's like, how do I do that? Well, I could go to Home Depot and buy a bunch of stuff and then do it myself when I have spare time or just one weekend be like, now it's all here. Let me just start looking up YouTube tutorials. But it's like, in theory, if there was somebody that they knew that could do it for really cheap, they'd probably just pay the person to do it and be like, this is the person for it every time, right? So, I mean, there's ideas in that sense. I don't really think somebody is going to go and run and do that idea because the profit margin is probably not huge. If they're honestly the go-to person, they probably have to be, that probably is all they do. But I think that there are so many opportunities I've seen in property management. Also, working in that industry, I met a lot of people that are on the other side of it. So I'm doing a lot of the administrative, the leasing, things like that. And you meet a lot of people that do maintenance because there has to be a maintenance employee at an apartment, typically, ideally. If you don't have one at your apartment, you're in trouble. So there should be one. And I met a lot of people that they had different skill sets. Some of them were like carpenters by trade, but maybe a recession happened. They eventually learned other things because to survive, you get a job or you find a way to make income. So they ended up becoming like a general maintenance employee. And a lot of them taught me a lot of stuff. And like also like I could call them and they would help me with something. And I realized that I had the ability to, just based on my network that I accrued over a year and a half, I could flip a house, So when I learned that, even the house I purchased was like kind of a fixer-upper. Shameless plug, Cory's been talking about that on his page. But yeah, I bought a fixer-upper myself. That was a duplex. And then I fixed it up really quicker than I thought I would have. A lot of things were done cheaply too because I knew people that could do it. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could provide that as a service to somebody else?
See, I was going to mention that, but I was going to wait a little bit.
Too.
But now we might as well just talk about what you did was basically a house hack. They call it a house hack.
Right.
A lot of people want to do this, and it's a tactic that's very smart for a young man to do. I tried to do it, but I had a kid and a family already. You know what I mean? And so it was a little bit harder for me to be like, hey, listen, pregnant wife, I want you to move into a fixer-upper with me,
right?
And I'm going to rent out the other side.
Right.
But I did have my brother do it. My brother wanted to buy a condo downtown, lived the single bachelor life, and I was like, nah, bro. So we went out to Robbinsdale, first-ranked suburb, Minneapolis, and bought a nice side-by-side duplex, and he lives on one side, rents out the other side. He probably pays out of pocket probably maybe $200 a month to live there, but he could actually cash flow if he wanted to get a different renter, but he likes his renter, and he don't want to lose her, so he lets her have a kind of a discount on the rent.
Right.
You know what I mean? But basically what Gozie did was he moved into the house, fixer upper, then you rent out the other side, and that tenant probably covers the majority, if not all, of your mortgage payment.
Yep, the majority, even in a 7% interest rate environment, you know,
Yeah,
and that's important for people to understand too, you know.
So it's smart because then right now Gozie's technically a landlord, right? So then in a couple of years he can get another loan, and they're going to look at that as, okay, this guy has experience as a landlord owning investment properties, so we're going to go ahead and give him some more money. He can rent out the side that he's in now,
right,
and buy another property, do it again.
Right.
So my question was going to be, being that you were a property manager, did you ever think about flipping or investing? And so you answered that. So what made you have that idea, like, I'm doing this now, and so, you know, if I get my own property, it'll be easy?
Interesting. I think some of it was kind of serendipitous. I kind of thought in my head when I was gonna buy a house. I knew I was gonna buy a house before I rented. When I was in college, I was in a dorm room, and I remember looking at the spread of what I was paying for when I turned 18, because, you know, I'm 18, I have no money, so I'm basically, my parents are taking care of me in a way, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm paying more for my dorm than I'm paying for tuition, you know, because I went to, you know, UW Stout, so I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then I realized, like, oh, housing is expensive, and I start doing more research, like what are my parents' interest rates and stuff like that, because I'm you know, learning about real estate. And I was like, this is backwards. I shouldn't be paying this much. I should be putting this into a house like my parents are. I kind of wanted to fast forward what's going on. So I started commuting to Stout, 55 miles, and I stopped paying, you know, the student loans I was paying for that year and a half that I was living there. And I started commuting back and forth, hung my license with Edina, and then I basically realized, like, yeah, it's better for me to just save and buy a house and get into an equity situation than to be paying what I considered rent to a college, because I was like, this is essentially rent. It's just a 9-month lease, you know, that you show up back and it's conveniently there next year for you cleared out. But I'm like, they're doing the same thing an apartment's doing. They just get away with it because you can get a student loan and use it towards it. They just have a different way of financing the lease. Yeah. So that's what really convinced me. The only place I ever lived outside of my parents' home was when I was in a dorm, and that dorm convinced me that I should get into an equity situation. So it was premeditated. And then the duplex reason, the investment side of it, came more so from feasibility, like looking at it and being like, let me hedge my bet, because I knew that I could probably, you know, buy the house next to my parents when it comes available or something like that, or across the street, and kind of be like jokingly like, hey, we're neighbors, but that wouldn't have been the ideal. I shouldn't buy the house in Woodbury that my parents potentially bought when they were older and had more cash flow and 2-parent household versus when it's just me. So I was like, let me do what they did, except in half, and get a duplex and have somebody pay the other half. Yeah,
and it's smart. It is literally the smartest track for any young person that's not married, doesn't have kids or whatever.
Right.
Smartest thing for you to do, man.
Right.
That's one of my next goals, is get an investment property.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it do.
See, the main difference is when you house hack, you put down 3% or 5%, right?
That's
when you get an investment
difference.
property after you own your house, now you're putting down 20%, 15 to 20%.
Well, I still had to put 15.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think that's where, you know, some of the other stuff came in, where because I was living at home commuting, I saved a lot. So I was able to do that. I could have gone FHA in theory, but because it was a fixer-upper, you know what when it's a seller's market, which sometimes it's almost always a seller's market, depending on the terms. So
depending on
how the terms are explained. If you have a property that's really nice, some people are going to be like, well, I could, you know, I'll go conventional and I'll save you the headache of FHA, which is more, you know, real estate talk. But I think I learned that, well, I'm good for it, is basically what, you know, I realized. I said, I'm going to save to the point where they can't get me on terms and make me do something or lose a house, basically.
And let's just break down the FHA part. FHA, Federal Housing Administration, it's a different type of government insured loan, and basically they don't allow people to buy homes that have health and safety concerns, basically, without the sellers making repairs. And like you stated, in the seller's market, seller doesn't want to make repairs.
No.
So you had to go conventional.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, you had to put more money down, but thankfully you were able to save.
Right.
And able to do that, so you're able to get into that property.
Right.
Conventional is like a little bit more lenient. Conventional is mainly set up for people that usually people that are in better credit situations.
Right.
My boy Gozie has better credit than both of us.
Yeah, I'm Nigerian. I lived at home. I mean, my credit's like $7.99 at that point, right?
He said he's Nigerian after everything. Hey, man, why you running 20 minutes late? I'm Nigerian. Hey, man, how come you ain't replying to my text? What can I say? I'm Nigerian.
I'm running late. At least I'm running. Because I'm Nigerian, right?
Did your parents put you on a credit card when you were a teenager?
No, my mom told me to get a credit card when I was 18, right when I was about to go to college. She's like, you should just get one and just buy gas with it. I didn't have a car, so I was like, gas, you know? So I was like, whatever, well, I'll buy something with it. So I think it was like every time I went to Quick Trip, I was like, I'll use this card. I don't know, I had a weird system. And I remember one day I came home, my dad's like, why do you got a credit card? And I was like, my mom set me up on it. He's like, how much do you have in your bank account? I was like, $500. He's like, how much do you have on the card? I'm like, $400. He's like, you got $100, bro. Pay it off. He's like, cut it up too. So that was my first credit card, and I paid it every time. I paid it when I had a balance every month, but then I got rid of it. And then when I was in college, I got another one. So like when I started commuting, I got another one, used that. And then during COVID, I paid it off when I graduated. And then I've had like an Apple card since. But other than that, like, my credit has just been because I just pay things on time and I pay off the full balance. I've never used it as like a tool necessarily, unless I was forced to. Like, I actually was very strict with myself.
See, a hack is adding your kids on your credit card as an authorized user.
Right.
When they're about 16, 17, and then taking them off.
Right.
And in like 2 or 3 years, their credit's going to be up there. We did that with my son.
That's smart.
My oldest son. So he's in the 700s right now.
Yeah.
Man, if I had my kids as authorized users, man, I might hurt their credit. Bro.
You know, Cory says that jokingly, but most people that do that honestly end up being like, well, maybe I got a little extra to work with here. Now that you got 700, I raised you. I deserve this.
I mean, it's not good if you don't take care of your credit, you add your kid on. You can be setting them up for failure. But
Absolutely.
if you're kind, if you're taking care of your business, and, you know, they ride that wave and then you take them off without having, you know, giving them a card so they can go spend anything.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I knew a couple friends, you know, that weren't Nigerian, that they were. They're like, why, Dad, why I got a Bell Bank loan for $9,000? We'll take care of it.
Yeah, pull that credit report up. I've had that done before.
Yep. So, yeah, in an ideal world. Yeah, but you don't pick your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, you got, you know, right now you're talking about how you have this big network, which I believe you do, man. And I've had, being in real estate, a really poor experience with contractors, man. And, you know, hey, man, I need you to do this. And they're like, okay, they do like 90% of it. I give them the check and then they're gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have it all dialed in right now. I think it would be wise for you to actually get into that investment framework if you do have that built up. But what do you think, just like a pitch right now, your property management service to the investors that listen to this? Like, what are you going to provide them that, say, Renters Warehouse ain't going to provide? Or what's going to be the difference between Gozie's management company? What's it going to be called?
Yeah, well, I think in a sense, I could even as simply be a consultant. I mean, I think there's an aspect of me that I just know what to avoid. You know, the same way that you can guide somebody extremely well through a listing process, you know. They don't even need to hire you. I mean, they could co-list it with you and another person. You could pick a random guy off the street.
Oh yeah, I get used all the time for information.
You know, and it's like you could co-list it with the guy that just joined Edina, and you could definitely make sure that transaction works seamlessly because you know enough.
Yeah,
you know what to avoid. I think that's basically where I'm at in property management. That I've learned enough over the course of, you know, since I was 18, I've been interested in it at least to some extent. I think that has taught me enough of what to avoid, how to not let a contractor get you to 90%, how to guarantee that you
get to 100%.
Yeah, how to get to 100%, how to keep people accountable, how to avoid situations that might not be people accountable, that you can create a contract and make the contractor sign it, that the contractor shouldn't be sending you, and not to hate on contractors by any means, but
there's some good ones out there.
There are some great ones out there. I just don't know any of them. You know, that's the thing. A lot of them are most of them are booked. You know.
Yeah.
But
what's the most what's the number of properties you've been responsible for at one time?
At one time, 4 at a time.
4 at a time.
Yep.
But so that's multifamily.
Multifamily,
at least. How many units?
At least 75 units.
75 units.
Some of them have been 200 units. Yep. Some of them have been 300 units. Currently, I manage.
So 4 75 to 200 unit properties.
Yep.
When we say 4, you think it's for people, but we're talking about hundreds of people.
Hundreds of households, yeah. Hundreds of households, hundreds of units. So potentially some of them are vacant, but most of them are full. Most of them are families.
Because like being a property manager to me is like, you know, like when you run into somebody that likes doing paperwork, and you're just like, they want to do the worst part of the job. Like being a property manager is like doing the worst part of being an investor, basically.
Yeah, you're doing a service for somebody that has enough money that says, hey, just scan my rent for me. Deposit my checks and I'll give you a portion of it.
Because when I ask people like, hey, you know, are you thinking about selling? You know, potentially you could rent this out, and like every person's like, I don't want to be fixing toilets in the middle of the night. I don't want to be doing this. It's like, call Gozie.
Yeah,
Gozie has a guy.
Yeah, I probably do have a guy, and I'm not like the guy that always has a guy. Like, yeah, but
so you delegate.
I delegate, but I also know what to avoid. I'm honest with people. I think marketing, it's interesting. Like, Cory said something earlier this year, or maybe it was, I just like watched one of his podcasts that I read, but it was, you know, about being in the concept of us being in sales, you know, and I never felt like I was in sales until literally the last 3 months. I always thought I was just kind of like this happy-go-lucky guy. Probably why I'm doing worse than you. I was like, I'm not in sales. I'm not in sales. But I really thought about it, and I was like, the best way to be to market yourself or to do sales is to be completely honest, is to help people, and that's how I've done all my transactions. That's why I can tell people like 100% satisfaction rate, you know, because it's like, you keep helping people. If they have a question, you're honest about it. And it's like, when you're honest, it tends to be the fact that the people that stick around are the ones who enjoy you being authentic and can work with you. And I think that's where being an investor or being a property manager works the best, is when you realize like, yeah, I can't fix 4 toilets at once, but I can tell you when the contractor's showing up to fix your toilet, you know, and I can tell you that how much you're gonna have to pay because you burned your unit down, and you can put it on a 200-year payment plan, and your kids can, you know, hopefully not, but yeah, that you just have to be honest. Not everything is nice to hear. You know, you don't want to hear everything's great. You don't want to hear you have to do a sewer scope in the middle of a transaction, but you can be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So for a property manager out there that's struggling with staying organized, do you have any tips or any tricks that they could use to help them stay organized, as far as like you said, handymen or contractors or whatever the case may be? Like, do you use a specific system or app or anything?
I think naturally I had to get organized. You know, I'm very type B, but I learned to be type A because of property management, also because of real estate. You have to be able to be organized. You have to think I have folders for my emails, you know, I have folders for folders. I have folders in my house. You know, I'm very organized. Because
I'll create folders for people, and then that'll make it so I don't see their email in my inbox, and I just ignore them.
That's funny.
Wow.
It's like, because, you know, if I create a folder for you and a folder for you, and you guys both email me, it goes directly into the folder.
Yeah.
I don't even see it.
That's smart.
So I stopped doing that.
I do that for like I have like the always enter into this email kind of thing if it's a newsletter or something like that. But I keep tabs on things. I think you have to be organized, even with contacts. Like, one thing I started doing when I got my first internship was if anybody I met at work, I put parentheses work on my contact. So, you know, it'd be like Cory Malvo, it'd say parentheses work, and then under that in their title, it would say realtor dash Edina Realty, or Edina Realty dash, you know, in their company, sales broker, assistant manager, sales manager, you know, et cetera. I would do all of those things because it would keep me, when I saw the phone ring, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. I was basically a step ahead of the person who was calling me. So when I pick up the phone, they're like, oh, this person was really prepared to talk to me. And it's because I knew it's not their name's not just Cory in my phone. I'm like, hey, like, who is this? Yeah. You know, it's like you're already like, okay, I know why they're probably calling me at this time. Or maybe I'm not picking up. They shouldn't be calling me at 11. You know?
Is that why he never answers when I call him, man?
That's why I'm always late.
That's why you never answer when I call you, Cory. It's Rob.
I put Rob under do not answer.
That's funny. Yeah. You could just call him, like, name him Home Depot or something like that. Home Depot telemarketer. That's funny. But yeah, you have to be organized. It's kind of natural. It's like sink or swim. I mean, you know that too in real estate. It's like, if you don't have a system, the system's going to system you. Like, you're going to become part of the cog in the wheel. You either have to create a system, or you're going to be thrown under the bus and miss stuff, you know? So I think that was my biggest tip, would be for the people that you meet, understand who they really are, have a conversation with them, really understand who they are, don't necessarily feel like, oh, every person I meet, I need to be able to contact them for something or get a favor out of them. But sometimes most people know somebody that could help you, so at some point. So just take note of who people are. When people send you their number or text you, save their phone number. I don't know how simple that is of a concept, but a lot of people think it's cool to like not have people saved and not respond to stuff. But for me, it's like I save everybody. I know if I didn't respond to a text, I'm very good about that. I know if I didn't respond to a text to email someone back. I know if I didn't respond to an email. And then, like I turn off my certain emails that I have like set up. I turn their notifications off during the day. So I don't get emails. I have all my Edina emails organized, even though I'm part-time. I see every email that comes in, but I don't check them when they come every time, But if I see a corporate communications at 9 a.m., I know put it in the corporate folder.
Yeah, from now on, can you let me know when we get communicated by corporate?
Yours is going in the folder right now.
Mine's probably going in the spam folder, man.
Yeah, I get my Mondays. I get all those. I get all my emails. I see them all, so I have them.
It's Monday email. Dude,
I get all of them.
Dude sends out a Monday email for Tuesday meeting.
That's true.
That's a real awkward name. Happy Monday.
Tuesday,
you click
Tuesday.
on it and he'd be like, hey, man, so on Tuesday, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's funny. He's already ahead of the curve. I try to get as quickly through the week as I can, too, so I understand.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So delving into the side business, I know you used to have a clothing line that you recently sold off or got rid of.
Yeah.
I remember you were a Nigerian supermodel for a minute.
Yeah, I was modeling my own clothes because it was cheaper.
Hey, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You were speaking Rob's language.
Yeah. So I started a clothing line with my friend in 2018, and then honestly, I did it because I realized there was no money in like songwriting. I was like, man, there's no money in songwriting. We need to sell like a physical product. And I was wrong about money in songwriting, but I think I understood that as a college student without much else of a job other than real estate, that my market was growing. I was learning stuff, but it wasn't consistent. So I wanted to do something with my time. And I started a clothing line called Design. And it kind of had a formula of like Supreme, like a big popular brand at the time. And it was like, just kind of make it popular, but have some mystique to it. So people don't really know why you started it, when it started, what you're doing. And then my goal was to sell it to Target. My goal was to get it big enough to where somebody at Target.
He's always got an exit plan. Man.
Somebody at Target.
Exit plan
somebody at Target would have been like, I don't understand it, but the kids love it, So just write them a check and buy it, and it'll replace Goodfellow and Co. That was like my grand master plan was like, get
Target's
this
brand, Goodfellow.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love man. If I'm getting white tees, you know which brand I'm getting.
That was my plan. So my plan was like, you have to pick something that's kind of out of reach or doesn't make sense so that you can keep going. Because especially when I had something with no, like, I don't know what my market cap is. I don't really understand fashion more than anybody else. I might be interested in it more than some people, but there are people that do it for a living that would be looking at me like you're crazy, So I just was like, well, have a blind dream and kind of go after it. And eventually I sold it to my business partner. I sold my share and stuff. So, but that was helpful because that was actually right before I bought my house. So that helped actually a lot. So
how's that clothing brand doing right now? Doing all right?
I think it's doing pretty well still. He still runs it. He's changed the brand a bit. So I think he's adapted it to be more in tune with what his vision was, which I thought was important. And that's why I went to him first, to sell it to him first, before I, went to like Target and was like, hey, I got 50% of this business, did an under the table deal. I don't think that would have been respectful. So brand's still alive, design's still alive and well. So,
what were some of the items that you all had?
We started with, affordable like essentials. So I created like a bomber jacket in black, white, and gray.
Okay.
Similar to that, but it would say DSN on it. We just picked like a few letters that would still look like design, but again, kind of mysterious. Like, what does DSN mean? And then the back of the shirt down the nape of the neck it was like DESIGN with dashes in between it. So it was pretty cool. And we sold those for like, I think $40 a piece sold. And I actually had a manufacturer in Pakistan that I'd met, just randomly. And I kind of was like auditing him, like, well, let me see your warehouse and who's working there and stuff. And he was getting, this is kind of interesting. He was getting Nike materials. He was getting leftover Nike materials from like when Nike would just dump a bunch of stuff in India, he'd rush and get it. And we started making stuff with the leftover Nike material. So people were like, how are you getting this like this high quality fabric?
Yes.
And they didn't realize I was buying things in bulk from this guy that was getting them from like leftover Nike stuff. And I mean, Nike's a gigantic company. So who knows if I was getting like the Burlington Coat Factory Nike stuff.
Correct.
All I knew is that when I got the samples, they were
nice.
legitimate. They were official. They were
How
nice.
crazy is it how small the world is in that we just are able to do that? Like I had a dude from somebody over there. It was like around Pakistan. I can't remember. I looked on the map, man.
Yeah.
He just hit me up on Instagram or something, and he was just like, hey, man, he's like, I watch all your YouTube videos, man. He's like, check out my website, man. I just wanted you to take a look at it. So I thought it was one of them scams, like try to get me to click the link. I ain't doing that. I ain't that dumb, bro.
Yeah.
So I messaged back and forth with him a few times, and I determined that he was a legit dude, that real estate agent over there.
Wow.
So I clicked on his website, and I kid you not, man, this dude copied my website word for word, bro.
That's crazy.
Like literally every single word was the same. Like he didn't even try to pretend like he created it himself.
Real estate agent development.
Correct. He literally
Love
copied
that. Mumbai, Malibu. Exactly.
He did.
Minnesota marketings.
Exactly. But it's
That's
a completely
hilarious.
different market though, man. Like the house is like everything is completely different style, man. It straight up looked like India or wherever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
He wanted you to click on it so he could show you how much of a fan he was.
Oh man, it was cool, man. I know. Yeah, it kind of seemed like he wanted me to be like really like flattered that he copied me word for word.
Hey, man, imitation is flattering.
Correct, it was. I was like, all right, cool, man. Cool.
You still got the connecting packet.
Yeah, I do.
So you talking to the merch king? So he's like,
well, yeah, no, I do. I absolutely do. And he's a nice guy. I actually talked to him earlier this year. He's like, hey man, are you releasing any music? Anything you need going along with it? You know, again, I think me looking at things through the lens of sales now makes me. I don't feel as apprehensive towards those kinds of things. When someone reaches out and brings up something that might be valuable to me, I don't look at it like I can at least listen now without being like, oh man, you're just trying to get my money. It's like I can always say no.
That's one of the first things that like some of my friends who you know, I have some friends that are fairly wealthy, own a few well-known brands, you know, and they say, hey man, if you go to Bill Gates and you tell him you got a way that he can make more money, you think he's just going to shut you up, or you think he might listen? Most of those guys will at least listen. If you know what I mean? Just to see what it's about. So
yeah, my dad always told me like you always have the right to say no. You can consider an opinion, and it's like the same thing with with like buying a house. Like I always tell people, you can always look at a house. Like let's go look. Like doesn't hurt to look. As a buyer, you actually have the entire market up until your financial limits, or you could buy anything. So it's good for you to look at as many things as possible. You should want to get educated. Mm-hmm. You should want to see as many places as possible. So
the thing about listening is that you can pick up gems.
Yeah.
Without even saying anything.
Right.
Because I mean it's like a sales pitch.
Right.
So if you're already in business and somebody's trying to pitch you, it's like, okay, I can use that, in my business. I don't have to buy from them, but I just got a couple gems that they dropped on me. So
absolutely,
I'm gonna transfer that to what I do, and
right,
and go on,
Yeah, there have been people I've been around in property management that I kind of just chose to continuously like pop around and be like, let me see what I can learn from this person.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
This person was a carpenter for 20 years. I feel like I'm gonna learn something from them that they probably figured out in 10 years. They're gonna teach it to me this week. Let me just hang around this dude for like a week extra.
That's smart.
You learn something.
Man, you know how many gems I picked up from cutting hair?
Oh, no, because, you
Believe
get
it.
From starting at the age of 11 to right now.
Right.
How many gems I picked up?
Well, because you meet so many different people.
I meet so many different people. That's how when I got on social media in 2016.
Right.
And like people were like, how you just on here knowing everything? Well, I'm talking to people in my chair. I'm watching them as I cut hair.
Right.
Like, what is that? Oh, this is so-and-so. How you do that? Oh, you got to do this, do that. And now when I get on social media, I already know what to do.
Right.
I'm doing it with my haircuts. But, while you're surfing, it's like, okay, I need to put something in there where you see what I'm doing. So
right.
I'm asking them how they're posting, how they're tagging, how, you switch from this filter. So
right. There's a deep wealth of knowledge with barbers that barbers have too, though, like uniquely. And like people that do hair in general or routine appointments, you see people, they talk to you. They tell you what they're doing. You don't
got
see
all
them
the
in
gossip.
You get all the gossip, and you see them in an environment where they can tell you whatever they want. They can tell
Especially
you,
now, because everyone has their own little solo salon or whatever, so it's kind of confined, so they feel like they can say anything because no one else is listening, you know what I mean?
Exactly. They can tell you they own a Bugatti and everything, and then 3 weeks later, you see them, pull up in a '01 Honda Accord, and they're like, my Bugatti's in the shop, But it's like you see real life updates on people.
Yeah.
You see people grow. You see people change. That's one thing that I really always find interesting about barbers is that they see things in an updated way all the time. They're constantly in touch with a lot of their clients.
You get the good and the bad.
I'm sure.
Once that door closes, it's like a waterfall. It's like, whoa, I didn't know this. Not
Right.
until I moved into, where I'm at,
Sure.
So, it's good though. Mm-hmm. It helps you grow. It helps you stay focused.
Sure.
But no, it's good to sit down and listen. Like I said before, it's good to pick up gems from people.
Truly. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the music thing. Let's touch on the music thing here. What got, for one, how do you know how to create music, bro? Is that just something you picked up on YouTube or something like that? Because I've seen a couple of your music videos and I was like, dang, this is kind of legit.
Yeah, I think I started off actually like writing songs like when I was younger. I'd like write a remix to a song like I'd hear like, I don't know, like Green Light by, I don't know, John Legend and Andre 3000. I'd be like, that's really cool. Andre 3000 and John Legend. Let me write a remix. Let me find a beat to this song. I don't know what drove me to do that, but it would be like, let me just write a remix to this song with the same cadence and everything else. And it was just kind of innocent, And then I actually went to Nigeria in 6th grade. I remember people were like, I thought you were moved there because you were gone for like a week from school. You didn't come back after winter break. Like, did you get deported? I'm like, no,
Wow.
I got innocent American friends, So, but anyway, I forgive them. But I think I had this notebook. My dad's like, write down what you do every day. My mom's like, yeah, every day you're not going to be here forever, so you're going to be here for like a week. So just write down what you do every day, and then like you'll look at it like a journal almost. So I remember like after a week, it was like, man, this big journal, like I have nothing left in there. I only wrote for a week. So I remember coming home and being like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write songs in this journal. So every once in a while I'd have an idea and I'd like write a song. And this is like at like the age of like 12. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh, I already know what I want to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a songwriter. That was like my goal. I was like, I can just be a songwriter. And as I grew up older, I started learning there's other aspects to music, like you have to be able to record. You need to have a microphone. And there's all these aspects that I didn't understand before. And
it's funny because you came in here and you're like, oh, you got the SM7Bs.
Yeah.
Nobody else has identified the type of mic I'm rocking right now.
Yeah. And just like even with like, Audio Technica and, all those other things, you learn, you pick up, you realize there's more intricacies and more things that you could learn. We're kind of all naive to what we're doing, in a way. It's like my brother said something to me one time, my immediate older brother, where I was talking about music and being like, well, if you can make your own beats, then this and that. And he's like, at what point do you build the piano? He's like, you can only do so much. You can't create your own SM7B,
Yeah.
Like at a certain point you have to outsource something, So it's the same way with clothing. Like at what point do you sew the shirt? You can put the logo on it, but you need to stop the production chain at some point. So I realized like, well, what do I want to do for the core of my songwriting? I said, I want to advertise my service. I want to songwrite, but I want to be like a Metro Boomin. So it's like I make beats, but I'm like not a household name, but people could be like, I think I know who that guy is.
And then Spider-Man comes out and they have you write every song.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, it's so funny because we had a guy on a podcast, the last guest we had on a podcast, exact opposite opinion when it comes to outsourcing things.
Interesting.
Makes his entire product at his house.
Wow.
Packages it, delivers it, sometimes hand delivers the product, right?
Yep.
And so, so you're more of like scale. You could probably work with this dude. You guys could probably blow something up huge.
That's interesting, man. I think there's a level.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's like, because you're more like good at like, okay, this is what I'm working with. I'm going to, you know all the intricacies of it. Like he's texted me before and he's like, you should rebrand. This is how you should do it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm flattered that you're just sitting at the crib thinking about me right now, bro. But
I always think about stuff where I'll like see something and be like, wow, these two things would work really well together. Or like I could see a pathway. But I think there's also some level of like you also have to understand that like there's so much more to what someone's doing and why they're doing it than you understand. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when I throw an idea out, it's like, this isn't going to land, but I want to tell someone I thought about it.
Yeah.
It might influence them. Who knows? I've seen it happen, but most of the time it's like, yeah, if you're you're like Cory and you're, 90 years old.
See, man. I'm not the oldest one at this table, bro.
It's like you can't make a T-Rex into a golden retriever.
You can't put that off on me. He's talking about you.
So for me, I have a really hard time. So like, and I mention this book all the time, The E-Myth Revisited. We talk about, you got to be the tech. Everyone's like the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur. I always mention this book because it had such a big kind of impact when I first listened to it.
Right.
And for me, I'm always going to be a technician and an entrepreneur.
Right.
I'm so happy to hand off the management part to somebody else. Like, hey man, you organize, you be my property manager, you do this.
Right.
But when it comes to the technician side, and Rob can probably see this part, like I'm so hands on with everything. Like I want it to be a certain way. Like I'm editing my podcast. I got several podcasts, several different decently successful YouTube channel, and I'll throw it. Sometimes I'll let AI edit something. I'm like, no, don't like it. I got to come back, and I was like, I'll just spend 2 hours and edit this thing back myself.
Right. It doesn't it doesn't feel the way it could.
Yeah, I can't. And even with shorts and clips and stuff like that, like if I edit this podcast episode like I did,
right.
And then I'll be like, okay, as I'm editing it, like as you're hitting the golden nuggets, I'll be leaving little markers next to it, right?
Sure.
So I could now run that whole podcast episode through Opus Clip or something, right?
Right.
And it'll shoot out some clips, and they'll be all right. And they'll, and they'll have like some nice virality scores.
Yep.
Or I could go back to the original edit and where I left the marks, and I could change the camera angles, right? Because I still got the original product, so it's gonna
the human touch.
Yeah, original project, so it's gonna make it look better. Because maybe when you were talking, maybe it was showing the wide angle.
Right.
On Opus, but maybe I want this to show your face, so I can just make it look better. I can little zoom effects, little explosions, and After Effects and stuff like that, man.
Right.
So,
but that's important. I think you gotta have interest in what you're doing. You also have to know what you are capable of. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people don't feel like they have. I think that's what holds a lot of people back.
See, that's why cocky and conceited people can succeed, man. Because I don't think there's anything I'm not capable of.
In a way,
I'm a YouTube video away from doing anything.
I had a friend. I'll keep this, discreet. But I had a friend that one time told me, he's like, somebody came to me about a meeting. They wanted to get a meeting at my company. He works for like a Fortune 500, and he's like, the guy on his, profile had everything like CEO, CFO, all that stuff, founder, all this other stuff. He's like, you shouldn't be meeting with me, man. I work at a Fortune 500. You are a CEO. Why are you asking me for a job, kind of thing? And I remember thinking. But he said, but that guy's going to succeed because he doesn't sleep. That's what he said, because he works so hard. He thinks he's a CEO already, and he's like, he's asking me for a job. But he thinks he's a CEO, and as a result, he's probably going to succeed. He'll find a way. And I think that's true. A lot of people that are ultra confident, sometimes they don't know anything, but they're willing to keep failing. Even by accident. They think they're working.
Well, a lot of times you just got to figure out what works, right? I like to use the analogies of let's use the Miami Dolphins, man. Miami Dolphins, right? You tank for Tua, you grab Tua, Tua ends up looking like trash.
Yeah.
The whole team looks like trash.
Yeah.
Right. And that's under Brian Flores, right? Mm-hmm. Brian Flores ends up getting fired. He's a great coach, so he ends up getting fired. Mike McDaniel comes in there. All of a sudden, Tua is a superstar. Right. They grab Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is putting up better stats there than he did when he had Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. Yeah. You got guys like Randy Moss that went to the Raiders, and Chris Carter went to the Raiders, right? And they were trash, and then they went back, played with Tom Brady, and they're superstars again. After from superstar to trash, back to superstar, right? Yeah. What's the old boy that plays for the Browns, the wide receiver?
Oh, Odell?
No.
That was last
current receiver right now. Played for the Raiders.
I know who you're talking about. It's Brown, right? No.
I haven't watched any NFL this year.
I'm totally blanking too. I know exactly who you're talking about. We have to look this up.
Yeah, it is gonna get looked up right now. Because I dude, this to me is like the best.
Who's he play for?
Example.
The Browns?
He plays for the Browns right now.
So
yeah.
Amari Cooper, right?
Yep.
Amari Cooper goes to the Raiders. Why does every receiver suck for the Raiders?
I don't know.
He goes to the Raiders, and he's drafted so high, and everyone thinks he's going to be so good, and he's kind of trash or whatever. So he ends up going over to Dallas, and I'm thinking, well, he kind of sucks,
Yeah.
And then Dak is like, nah, this guy's a superstar, and he ends up blowing up. Goes to the Browns afterwards, he's still a superstar. Right. It's like sometimes you just got to identify where you fit in,
right?
And people got to accentuate what's good about what you're doing, right?
Right.
And then you just got to plug in. All right. maybe for me, I'm not good at the management side, but I'm great as an entrepreneur.
Right.
I'm great at, I'm great as a technician. So I just need to find a manager.
Right.
Just do what I'm good at and outsource the rest. Right.
Yeah.
And so, we have a friend who owns a company, and he's making all this product out of his kitchen. Maybe he's as good at everything, or maybe he could probably lean at what he's better at. Right. Outsource some of the other aspects of his business, and he'll see that business flourish. I
think with that technician mind, though, sometimes, we are all in some sense technicians at this table. I think sometimes what we also do is we analyze things in real time. When you're good enough at doing it, over like 5 years, it pays off because you've done enough things yourself where you could see the fruits of your labor. But I think sometimes I'm just kind of like, well, you can keep, creating that pudding in your kitchen maybe, and 7 years from now, you could be as big as Martha's Cookies because you just decided you wanted to do something super yourself. However, I would have done it differently, and I would have been contacting someone at the state fair and working my angle. Be like, hey, I need some DEI.
Yeah, no.
I would have figured something out.
Real strategic how they always set up across from the milk station.
Yep. Real suspicious.
Real suspicious. Yeah. Real suspicious. I see you, Denny's.
Usually right around the election.
I see you, Denny's, right outside the Holiday Inn.
Right around election season. They always right next to the cookies.
I think it's because we have vision too. And
yep.
Like you were saying, you could edit it one way and then Opus might edit it a different way.
Right.
It's like me, I feel like I'm shooting a movie every single time. It's like I have to make it feel real. I have to have the clip hit on the beat.
Right.
They have to change and the bass has to drop at the same. It's just so intricate that, I like it. I like it that way. And then I've done Opus clip a couple of times.
Right, right.
I've let TikTok do some things, and it's like it feels over the top,
right?
Certain times, and sometimes I wanted to slow down, speed up, like you were saying, But we're OCD.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. We want it perfect the way that we like it.
Yep.
And we're good at it.
Yeah. That's a big part of it too.
Yeah. And until I guess I need more finances to outsource. So that's one of the big things. And
I think maybe that, or maybe sometimes the level of product that the standard is what I told my supervisor this at work. I said, the standard that I want, if I was to outsource it, I'd be paying a lot to outsource. So I do it myself. So I built my skill set to a point where if I was to outsource it, I'd be getting an A-level product.
And that's how I feel too. But so this is what I've been doing with my real estate business, my real estate practice. I was going to make a video on this, man, but basically, as a real estate agent,
right,
you have so many different hats, right? So you're basically a content manager, content marketer.
Yep.
You're a content creator.
Yep.
You're a client acquisition specialist.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're a client retention specialist.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're a
behavioral
advertiser, behavioral therapist, everything, right? So what I did is I started working on this, creating different, basically job descriptions.
Yeah,
I got this from the book too, man.
Smart.
There's a version of this. So basically, like it'll be like, real estate, content creator, whatever. And I'll write out the whole job description. This is exactly how many pieces of content need to be created in a week. This is the platforms they're going to be posted to. Social media marketer.
Right.
This is how often they're going to post it. This is how often they're going to sit down, write captions. This is how, so I had the whole thing, right? At the end of every one of the job descriptions, right, all the way down from prospect and everything else, you sign it. You sign it. Like, this is a job description, you sign it. So now, as you grow and scale, you already know what works because you're going to tweak it to make sure it all works. And so then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, hey, this is my specialty. I'm a social media marketer. I say, okay, well, if you want to work for me, here's the job description. I've already been doing it myself. I'm going to give it to you now. So now that's your job. And if you're not going to do the job, obviously you can't work for me. But to the T, this is what works, and I've already perfected it. So this is going to be your part of the job. The next guy that comes in, hey, you're going to be making calls for me. You're my client acquisition specialist. Boom, here's your part of the job. You know what I mean?
Very interesting.
It's the same thing. You sign off on it. And so now if I ever want to bring it back in-house, I can shrink and grow, but the job's already there. The job titles already exist.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know how you do certain things. Yeah.
I've been doing it for 17 years, so you start to learn how it works.
Right.
What's going to work, what ain't going to work.
And what's not going to work.
You've been editing for 17 years?
I'm talking about real estate right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long you been editing?
I started doing video in 2017. So
Okay.
It's been about 6 years.
I picked up a lot of game from Cory. A lot.
Yeah, Cory's a man of many talents.
Dude, if you go to 2017 videos, man, you would laugh, bro. But I leave them on YouTube. I leave them up.
Well,
I like
growth.
seeing where I came from, man.
You got to see the growth.
This is before templates. This is before CapCut templates existed.
Yep.
I got a video out here on YouTube that my cousin shot when I first opened up in 2016.
Sure.
She's like, you got to be boisterous. You got to be. Man, I'm in the back sitting on. Hey, welcome to Neighbor's Cut. It's like it just
Lickety split.
it didn't feel natural.
But they say on video you got to be you times two. Like that's what you have to be. Because if you're just
Right.
kind of laid back and you talk, you and I are talking right now, But if you're just talking to a camera, just you talking to a camera, you might feel like, oh, I did a great job.
I
You
did
watch
that.
it back and you're like,
Welcome to Fresh Air, NPR. My name's Chigozie Ukaga. That's what it turns into. I know. It's so different when you play it back.
It is. It is.
It is. It's
Yep.
different. You
But
kind of
yeah.
have to be you times two. That's facts. That's facts.
I look at that video. My kids was, hey, Dad's on YouTube. I was like, that's not your dad. That's just, hey, come on down and buy this car. That's like,
That's the weatherman. That's not me.
it's like, oh man. I mean, I was there. She's like, over. You gotta do it over. I think I was doing it for like 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Even with music and stuff, you redoing stuff. You get really comfortable redoing things.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I learned from there. When I was explaining that I kind of started songwriting, how I ended up getting into recording music was some of my friends in high school were doing music, and they kind of had a buzz, and they were making kind of like pop music, almost more like the New Boys kind of stuff like that. And I was like, this is kind of an angle. This is like radio-like, but it's like suburban, so it could work. I'm like, we would be the face of Minnesota for this kind of music because there's no real.
Yeah.
So I started managing them. I was like, let me manage you guys. And really my angle was to eventually like get in the group, but I was like, let me manage you so I can book all the shows, learn how everything business-wise the back end works.
Yeah.
And they were like, nah, man, you can't manage us. And then eventually they're like, yeah, talk to my folks. And they're like, yeah, you should manage us, but you should do something else too. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll songwrite too. So I kind of like worked what I wanted to do in, and eventually like they taught me how to record. They showed me how to use Logic Pro X, similar to GarageBand, just the upgraded program and stuff like that. And then from there, I just kind of kept learning. I just kind of kept going. So I think that taught me also that you can do a lot of things, and that's part of being like outsourcing. You can do a lot of things okay or good or well, but you can't do a lot of things great. You can only do like things that you've probably been doing for 5 to 10 years plus great, and if you're doing it for 5, you probably put in as many hours as the guy that was doing it part-time. Like I've been a real estate agent part-time for 6.5 years-ish, So somebody that maybe started this year that's doing great might still be able to ask me questions, but I could probably ask them questions too, because there's things that they probably experienced.
Yeah, it's all about hours, man.
It's hours, man.
It's all about putting those hours into 10,000 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's your focus, if it's really your passion, you should put in more hours, That's one thing that I think when it comes to the job description thing that Cory brought up, that's really cool to me because typically I just kind of plug and play. If people come to me with an idea, I'm always like, pitch me, explain to me why this is better than what I'm doing. Because I feel like my standard trajectory is pretty good. Like I just have always believed that my standard trajectory is good. Like year over year, I'm always in a better position, or 5 years over, I'm surprised at myself, So I was like, you have to kind of pitch something to me that would make me create a position for you.
See if you wouldn't have took that initial $60K job, you'd probably have more money, but you would have been, the opportunity cost would have been the experience and knowledge that you currently have.
That's true.
So
That's
there you
true.
go.
And the wealth of knowledge and the wealth of savings too. I probably wouldn't have been able to buy.
Good thing you didn't listen to me, bro.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Listen to me.
Yeah, I bought my house off my property management job. Shameless plug. So that was my W-2. I didn't have 2 years of Cory level commission. So yeah, so
You did something right, Cory. You told him. So
Did you know that? Did you know if you're in the same
direction.
industry for 5 years, they're only gonna take 1 year?
really,
Yeah. So if you're self-employed for 5 years, you can get a loan off 1 year.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Throw that out there for those people that need me to give them the plug on how to get a mortgage with 1 year.
Yeah, in that case.
With 1 year's tax returns
In that case,
and
yeah.
maybe a P&L for the current year.
Yeah, I actually right after I closed, I got a job right afterwards. So another job. So I'm glad that I kind of worked the angle that I did because I threaded a needle. Shout out to my loan officer. He was on your podcast too.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Nick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was on my other podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what's up.
So if I'm trying to reach out and listen to some of your music or something like that, where would I go?
You'd go to my website, gozieukaga.com. And if you want to, get some consulting on property management, you go to my other website, Chigozie Ukaga, CHIGOZIEUKAGA.com.
Dang, I'm going to have to listen to that 5 times to put that one on the screen.
I know. I'm Nigerian. Is that I just pulled the cop out?
I'm Nigerian.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not like John.com. I'm sorry.
John.com.
I wish I got down like that.
John.com.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to listen to music, you just search GOZIE and you'd find me. But yeah, I actually am working on like a short film. Like I've been working on a short film for like 2 years that incorporates some of my music into
Are you filming it yourself?
I EP'd it. So I'm filming it with an independent videographer.
Okay.
Yep. And he's doing some great work. So that should be out this year.
Are you able to talk about it or no?
Yeah, I could talk about it. I think for the most part, I mean, people will see it. It'll probably need to speak for itself. If I spoke on it, it would probably not do the same justice.
Oh, okay.
When people see it, they'd probably be like, "Whoa, I didn't know that's what
What's
you're
the
working on."
ETA on when that's coming out?
Probably before April of this year.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. Within 2 months, within 60 days.
Okay.
Probably see the final product. So yeah,
Sweet.
it's kind of a short film, kind of a music video, but more of a short film.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I want to shoot one of those.
yeah. It was intricate. It was pretty cool.
About to try and shoot a short film next week or 2.
See, Rob won't actually hire independent videographer though. He'll just like offer someone 3 haircuts to do it for him. He'll be like, "Hey man,
Like
here's my
running through the
camera.
mountains.
You can hold it. I'll give you 3 haircuts."
Yeah, running
I'm
through the
shooting
mountains with
some
the
of
iPhone.
it. I don't want to have. I don't have to be in all of it. I just want to. I want to shoot some because I got some different angle perspectives that, just like you're editing.
You want to try things. That's
oh
important.
man, yes.
You got ideas.
Look at us right now. We tried something.
Yeah, I kind of have that constant dialogue in my head of like doing ideas and stuff. I don't really shut off. I think we're all kind of those ways. We're kind of thinkers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for coming on.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And like always, like, comment, subscribe, share this podcast, and just like me and Cory, outwork everyone. Peace.
Kids, yeah, let's set it straight. Do it for your kids, gotta set it straight. It's time to regulate.